Peace. All right. I wasn't able to make it to the school tonight. All right. Dealing with a family health matter, not my own. And so taking care of the children. But, we have some time. I have some time to get on here. I will try to be here as long as I can. All right. As always, people's questions, ideas, all of that. All right. Let's just fix some of the error here. All right, Malik, 793rd. All right, peace. All right, I'm just. All right. You should not even be in the box. Get out. No, get out of the box. Do not get the paper. Last week, there were a couple of things that people asked me for, and I had to go digging for them. I want to go through this folder with everybody just to show you how things progress, how things that we think are minuscule, how they become important. So when we talk about a book of life, they become relevant as you go along, In this folder, I couldn't find it at first because I had an old folder, and I was looking for that in all of the pile. But then I realized that old folder, that disintegrated, so it couldn't be it. Yeah, there's a lot of plus lessons that I've taught over the years that are still in this form, where I haven't really been able to put it in another way. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, and I want to show you. So as we go along, I'm going to take you through some of these materials, the journey of the knowledge itself. Because sometimes when you see how it may be for myself, you might realize that you're very well on course in this piece of peace, to have your peace of peace. All right. All right. But if there are any questions from anybody, there's a couple of people in here doing the knowledge. So if there's anything, a lot of plus lessons don't get developed because I just don't have the time to put them in that form. I don't know if there are things that other people be ready to learn. So I don't put them in that student form. I keep them for myself, just because I don't know if I've encountered enough people. So a lot of my plus lessons, like for example, last week I was asked to teach the 10 progress questions. Okay, this is right. So this is a plus lesson I wrote. It was called it is called the Peace Course Progress Questions, right? And subtitle was for the dedicated student, right? And I couldn't hand out
I couldn't email a PDF or anything because it doesn't exist. It only exists in this. This is the last copy, and I gotta look for it. It's probably in some flash drive I don't use anymore, or somewhere where I've just renamed it, possibly as well. So I haven't had the time to look for it correctly in that sense either. So that actually could be the case as well. Who knows? But in my initial searches is not under the name that I gave it. So that's something. And I couldn't find any old emails. I very rarely gave it out. I taught it a lot, but I very rarely gave it out. And it's a very complex listing because I did it personally, like what I would be doing, how I would be judging myself, my own progress, my own development. And so I find that it ended up becoming other things. Like, so when I give you the build awareness square, that, right? Build awareness, right? Square, which is really build awareness of your square. I mean, that that actually was a simplification of what I felt the most important ideals in some of the questions in those progress questions. So it develops that way. Ever simplifying, ever trying to make it more easier. The build awareness square is one, then became one of the first personal plus lessons I give out to students now. You know what I mean? The 10 progress questions, Malik, I did teach in class a long time. Throughout the years, I have, and I have revisited it. But it's called progress questions for the dedicated student, and I can only judge it of this course and those who show me certain things. So when the classroom feels to be ready for that, then I go through it. But I'm gonna go through it in a little bit. Also, too, it's my early writing. My early writing was very concentrated, maybe a little, um, very dense, to say the least. I've always used it. I've always used a concentrated language, but this is very, very dense. Okay, I'm just opening stuff here because there's more. All right. So this here I digitized, for example, this little thing folded up here, is why the 13th degree in the actual fact shouldn't be 700. I mean, excuse me. What was the wrong one? Let's see. The old calculation was, let me see, millions, billions, trillions. The old calculation was 12,478,118,400,000 inches. There's no such thing as inches on planet Earth. It has to be squared inches. And in the degree, it shows you how it's calculated, the incorrect calculation, and by the measurements and stuff, So, and then the explanation and the commentary, So, and even in there, I give a little history of who inspired it, and that it was brought to the attention of firstborn prince, who accepted it and instituted the particular change in question, other key corrective changes. Just trying to document things. Even then at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, there was always a lot of backlash. There was always a lot of backlash of whether Mecca and elders in Mecca had been rewriting things, and they had really documented many things. And by documenting these things, other boroughs, mainly Medina, felt that their understanding, and I don't mean misunderstanding, you know what I mean, wasn't right and exact, right? And I simply put, Malik, why is it square? Around surface. Hey, girls, do you have a ball over there? You have a ball? Give me a ball. Okay. Small ball. Give me a little. No, that's too big, but I'll deal with it. Okay. I'm gonna throw it back at you though.
Why?
I'm gonna show the students something. All right. You see this? When you judge the inches of the planet Earth, though, you just be doing diameter, so it's not inches. It has to be square inches, though. Anything 3-dimensional is square inches. Right? As simple as that. And the calculations are incorrect like that. Thank you, Amma. I have a lot of things here. A lot of times, the good student. We'll talk about a useful student, right? We'll have things that they've kept that are not useful. I won't even say what that is. That's some bullshit. But uh, let's see. What is this? I think this is a Best Buy receipt for an 160 gig iPod, classic black. This is how important music is to me. I had to make sure that this thing, you know what I mean? But I don't need that. But in the calculation, there are some things here, right? Other things I don't need that are garbage. All right, I'm going to show you some things here. 2010, 2011, 2000, 2012. These are lists of books that I read, right? They got little stars on them. If you look in there, they've got little stars on them for the books that I've read yearly, the books I like to read yearly, right? So how long have I been reading? As a Man Thinketh, Great Learning, Art of Peace, the Dhammapada. These are books that I love to read again and again, okay? But I want to show you when it started, okay? First year that it started was 2002. So it's got a little rip there, but and it's going to come out backwards. But if you could see 2002, and if you look at the list, I only read 23 books in 2002, you know? And I started teaching this class in 2000, and I felt like I'm not reading enough, and it's a disservice to myself and to the student. See? And so by the next year, 2003, I felt that I should read a book a week. And by the end of 2003, I did make it. And if you look at the bottom there, I've got the 53, you know? In fact, wow, that was a good book. One of the last books I read, I was really reading some really powerful books in 2003. Before the Mayflower, True History of Mustafa Muhammad, Introduction to African Civilizations, Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children. That's Amos Wilson. Sufi Message of Spiritual Liberty. Very great book, short book. Ancient Future. The Science and Myth of Melanin. African Background in Medical Science. The Book of Tea. I love that book. I need to revisit that one. I've always loved that. I've never read it digitally. I've always read it. Serpent in Sky. African Presence in Early Asia. Now, I only read 53 books this year. These are extremely long books. And these are books that really change my perspective. So 2003, 2004, 2005, I may have lost 2005, but I have never failed since. Never failed since. You know what I mean? People that know me, women I've been with, they know. They might hate later, as they do, but they know that I would spend New Year's Eve finishing the 52 books, finishing the required writing, all to get to a place I never thought was possible. What would be that possible place? 2009, I worked a job where I really had a lot of time on my hands, and I read 103 books. I had to take 2 pages, right? Sometimes when you catalog things, you can realize your growth and development, Sometimes it's necessary. When I was in college, I started writing. I wrote down the names of all the articles I wrote in college. So in the years 1994 to 1998, I published 158 articles in the Baruch College newspaper in the CUNY City of University of New York. That's a record. I didn't get any. I didn't get any recognition for that though. It's possibly because of what I was writing about. Um, but there's nobody. There's nobody that wrote that much in the history of that school. All right. So these things, when you complete these things, these little things, when you complete these things, so this achievement from college led me to realize that I could achieve the other achievement in reading these books, in needing to read these books, in needing to write these things. These things accumulate. One success brings about another. So there's a lot of things here. There's years of plus lessons here. In fact, the only, and mind you, I'm going through these things while I wait for people to have any questions about anything. If there's anything people want to ask, the quality of the student is not only what he achieves, the amount of learning, per se, that he could accumulate, books read, things like that, but in the development of his questions. To me, it was not a successful class with my enlightener if I didn't have a good, suitable amount of questions. You know what I mean? If I wasn't coming up with enough questions to show that I'm thinking of these things that I've mastered, but also developing curiosities forward. It shows a mastery of the material. True History of Master Farah Muhammad is a good read, Justice. Peace to God. Because there are Elijah's speeches, the way I saw it, and I know this is a 5% way of seeing it, but this is the way that I saw it after, right? It's as a 5%er, but these are mainly speeches and writings and stuff that were documented post 1960, four, certain, and a lot of them in the 70s. So they take on, you kind of see like, what was Elijah's worth? What was his focus? When the true and living God has manifested himself. Okay. I don't know, girls, there's a little bullhorn out there. I don't know. Who's doing that? Who's that doing that bullhorn?
It's the boat.
Oh, it's the boat. Yeah. But I don't want the students to leave though. So if you put the bullhorn to leave, they might leave too. Okay. All right. You might have to do the bullhorn, okay? As long as you don't do it too crazy, right? All right, okay.
You want to have some of your vitamin C water? We're ready to leave, go! Super speed. I just got some water from the boat kitchen.
Yeah. By the end of August, though, the Peace Course book, I'll say it won't be titled Volume 1, but it really probably could be Volume 1. That's going to be done. So, honestly, I just write. I just stay writing. Stay building. Justice, you said, I have a question I've been asked off and on throughout the years. I'm asked as 5% is, why do we study Muslim lessons? Very, very interesting, right? These Muslim lessons, the first lesson says the truth of who we are. And it's the most concise body of information of crucial ideas and truths that are not privy to the original people, right? So no matter where we go, these things have not been shared with us, though. What until 1934, when these lessons are written, though, where was it being taught that the original man is? Oh wait, oh man, you left me with 0. Can you fill it up for me? Okay. All right. Left me thirsty here. I have to keep talking. I'm very proud of my daughter today. She's mastering jump rope. So she was literally not so good yesterday. I was going to use the word terrible. I don't want to use that word. But trying fruitlessly. And today she can really whip it now. So proud of her. But that's what I think. I think that as 5%ers, it's the most mandatory piece of information that must be mandatory. I think everything else can be gotten from it. I think when we talk about other ancient texts like Dhammapada and others, those pieces of information can actually be gleaned from the insights of experience of elder 5%ers. You know what I mean? Although it is also so fruitful to get them from the written word from ancients who have lived, incredible lives, and many of them living lives where they saw themselves as a true living, right? So that's important too, right? Thank you, 793. You know, but that's why, you know what I mean? They're not Muslim lessons. I don't see them as Muslim lessons. I see them as Muslim teachings. The reason is that they need to just learn them. We're not really learning from them as this is 100% true, and we take it and it's 100% true. We're not taking them as 1 + 1 = 2. We're taking them more as ideas that are filled with fact. It's funny because I wrote this here in one of my copies of the lessons. I have a copy of 120 in my own 120 physically, and I wrote notes in it. I trying to transfer that, and every now and then I try to put notes into my online version of 120. But I call 120 for years. I've called 120 a subjective true reality. Okay, that means that it absolutely is true, but because the first degree is talking about you, the original man, thus the original people, right? Are the context of this and the subject of this, you are immediately thrown in there. And because you're immediately thrown in there, it is no longer objective in the westernized sense. And yet it is still scientific. And I call it true because it is filled with facts, but it is also a reality, which makes it totally different than the westernized scientific method. So it takes something, the scientific method is certainly a very bona fide tool, but it actually doesn't have all the parameters to be able to deal with something that is directly true of oneself. In other words, the lion cannot study himself in the scientific method, you know? So how do you study the world when you are of the world, and it is crucial that your reality of the world is crucial to it, you know? These are things that are also attacked by books today, like biocentrism and those 3 works. I'm on the 3rd one, you know. So that's important too. You know? You just need a seatbelt. I'm going up back and putting on a seatbelt. I got my seatbelt on. You're laying down in the bowl. Yes, put the seatbelt. Hey, put my back on. We're going normal speed now. So good. What? Oh.
driver or else it's gonna crash. Are we there yet? Almost. Why does someone have to make the GPS so impatient? I'm not making it impatient. You guys are. We're going on to GPS. Are we close? We are 1,000 feet close. Are we close? In 1,000 feet, turn left to your destination. Okay, we're almost finished. You just have to get to
Okay.
that location. Are you going to put on your seatbelt or what?
Would someone's 120 be different if they were somewhere like Morocco or Cuba? I certainly think so. Absolutely. The language barrier, I guess. But if you're talking about 120 though, it really needs to be translated just like any other document. You know, like when I read the Dhammapada, I'm reading an English translation, but I need those ideas and concepts to be translated. I need those ideas to be translated properly. You know what I mean? Right? Thank you, Malik. I appreciate that. You know, I don't talk about it online and stuff like that. And those who know, and you know, it's just something that during certain days and stuff like that, I literally can't get out of the house. You know what I mean? I work from home, and then I can't really leave because I'm taking care of the kids, and there's no one else to do that. So that's where I am. But appreciate that, Malik. But I think it's in the power of the translation, and quality translation is needed in all text. You know what I mean? And it can be done because there's worth to it. You know, there's massive worth to it. Just like we get worth from the ancient text of China and Japan to us, then soon the world will have to get worth from 120 lessons translated. You know? What I mean by the differences of westernized as opposed to Eastern way of thinking is assuming that both are very useful. Let's not think devilish here. Because when I say the scientific method, I don't think that that's a devilish method. I think it's actually very useful. Every time you see Europeans and you see the Western world do things that are devilish, it's usually because they're not going by the scientific method. They're usually breaking it. You know, like we see studies and they say that these studies are true. They usually are not, and they have not gone through any kind of method. Okay, it's a bunch of lies. It's a bunch of advocation, and it's bad science. It's not even the science that they advocate if we put their own methods in front of them. But what I mean by the difference between the Eastern and Western is that things are studied outside of yourself. So you were studying things and their realities as if they are not part of you. And that's different from the Eastern way. In the Eastern way, you study things, and part of the one of the crucial ways of studying this is how does it relate to the self? How does it relate to your reality? So that's what the difference is in what I'm saying here. You know what I'm saying? As far as that goes, right? Does that make sense, Malik? Okay. You know, when I was digging in my closet, oh man, I there was a book there, and I didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't take a picture. I have to go into my closet and go through all of the books I've read that I can't really get digitally, so I can take pictures of them and see if I could find them digitally or just have to. There's a lot of old books I have to reread, you know. I think this. I think that the Eastern way is the best, but the Eastern way doesn't have um, the Eastern way doesn't have the technical aspect of studying things as scientifically. So when we talk about the Western way, a lot of the way that we build and that the way 120 lessons is written and how the builds are shown and proven is actually a westernized logic. It is not all Eastern logic in there. You know what I'm saying? So when so that's one thing, you know. So like one is not better than the other because both methods can absolutely, when done right and exact, can lead to correct ways. The Eastern method can lead to belief and belief in things that are not shown and proven, and use intuition to get to correct answers, which is total flim flam. Whereas the Western method does not take into account the reality of of and often what we say, the holistic reality. You know what I mean? So there's a book, can't remember the name. It's a collection of essays from African teachers and African rooted teachers. And one of the differences between, let's say, for example, the Eastern and the Western way of teaching is that there's not a holistic approach. So when people learn of a world war, for example, or war, let's say the Spanish American War, because this is always an example that hits me close. The Spanish American War at the end of the 1800s, you only hear about what happened with America. But as someone that was of Puerto Rican descent and thought like, well, this is really somewhere maybe I might learn what happened, like how is it going? Then you wouldn't know. You wouldn't learn that because it's not holistic. It's what happened with America and this country, but a holistic approach would tell you what was happening with all these other countries. So that's important, you know. You said Jesse said, God, bet your original notes when you were obtaining your lessons as you got them were fire. I got to get my hands on that book. Well, let me open the Peace Course book because it has some recent essays. I just thought I wrote them really well. And I wanted to have like a continuum of like a little bit of all my years, these last 22 years. But the Peace Course book is mainly built on essays, creative essays that I wrote in the very beginning of having the knowledge of self and being a teacher. There's a major essay. I don't even want to say the names until it's released though, but there's a major essay of this knowledge of self. I'm going to explain later. There's one about a very creative look at my pedagogy. And then there are certain columns that I added and certain plus lessons I thought that anyone reading could use. And that's pretty much makes up the majority of the book because the major two essays I'm talking about are very, very long. They are very long. And so this book, it might be as small as it might be as small as art and art, but like art and art is concentrated because of the beauty of the words. It's really poetry. The Peace Course book is actually concentrated because of what I was saying in there. So it's one that you read over again, you know. I expect it to be available at the end at the end of August. Right now I asked one of my students that I've been building with for years to take photographs of the school and photographs so I can put them in the book cover. And then another student is going to design the cover. So that's all 5% made, you know, right? Peace, Jarrell. And so right now I'm in the editing stage of that, reading it over, you know, like the way I wrote in 2003 is a lot different than the way I wrote right now, you know. And not only because you learn things, but you develop a different style, you know, willingly a better style, so adapt, you know what I mean. I also have a book on martial arts though, but it's a creative work on martial arts. And I can't even say the title because the title is really, really creative. Like I came up with this a long time ago that I can't even give the title of the book. You know what I mean? Because the title is crazy. The title is crazy. You know? But that book is gonna come out next year. You know? I'm gonna release it next year. You know? That one is gonna be fun to edit though. A lot of good memories. I wrote it. I wrote it after I trained. So when I was living in an apartment in the Bronx, I had a very, very big living room, and I couldn't get the book done, but I knew the chapters, and I can't explain it, but I knew the chapters already. And I said I gotta do a chapter a day, no matter how long some of these chapters are. And what I did was I was by myself, so I I cleared out all the furniture from the living room. It's a huge room, and I had a mirror on an entire wall. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna train all day, you know, and I trained, and after I trained, I let that spark the creativity to continue to write, and it worked. It worked. If I didn't finish a chapter, where was I? I was around. I lived around 176 and Popham Avenue. Let me write that down. I lived on 176th Street and Popham Avenue. So when you get off on University Ave, that's the big Ave right there. You walk up into the dead end, you know. So taking a 4 train to 176 and just walking up. You know what I mean? Um, you know, so that's where I wrote that book. And I wrote it in P.E.A.C.E. That's why I always say P.E.A.C.E is where the you know, great ideas can be made in P.E.A.C.E too. You know what I'm saying? But that was where I first learned that my own physical accessing my physical creativity can inspire my written creativity. So you can use the creativity to, you know, to channel into different things, you know? Right? Yeah, but where am I at now? For tonight's session, I know I have some interviews that are up about hip hop. Anything that people want to ask me, hey, there's my youngest daughter, Alma. So anything that you want to ask her, I think I'm gonna let you teach the class for us tonight. Here's the materials. You go through the materials and just do your best.
Okay. Hey Maria, do you want to work with
me? Maybe you. This is my niece Maria. Maybe you can teach. What do you want to teach?
Let's teach. Oh, come on. I can teach you about OMG dolls.
You can teach about OMG, the cipher of the Master Gods. Is that what it's about?
Yeah. Maria, go and get my twin doll.
Look, Malik said peace queen, Alma.
Hi. So this is the first OMG doll. Her name is...
As you almost poked me in the eye.
Her name is Fancy Girl. She's one of the twins. She's really cool. And we love these dolls. But some of my friends don't make fun of me. But it's okay.
It's okay, right? Because you like them. And you got your reasons. The Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? You give them the reasons. The reasons that you're here, right?
And also, my sister's coming on Saturday.
Oh, great. You tell them about everything.
It's Friday.
Right. So.
Luna, my sister, my older cousin, I have 2 cousins, by the way. The first one is the 8-year-old Alma, And one is the young adult Luna. She's coming tomorrow.
Okay, this is the whole world will know this stuff.
And she's my sister.
So Malik asks, how fascinating is jumping rope, Alma?
Well, it's really fun. You have to practice when you first start it. It takes a while. Maria, I'm gonna do jump rope in this.
No,
I just want to show them one of my jump ropes.
There we go.
These are one of my lines.
So, as proven though, I never can teach a class whether I bring them to the school or they're here and they let me actually teach them, especially you, Alma. All right, girls, say bye to everybody.
Bye.
All right, peace. So, even though I couldn't get to the school though, I had a very fun day because all I did was train and have fun with these kids. You know what I mean? They don't even let me read, right? But really great girls, right? Yeah, Justice, you got somebody P.E.A.C.E wants to smack the yarn out of you, Koofy. right. Oh man. Let me know if anybody has any questions about anything. You know, it could be about anything. You know what I mean? As I'm going through this folder, but that's peace. You know what I mean? They it's like the Anita Baker song, one of my favorite Anita Baker songs. They bring me joy. You know.
You know what I'm gonna do?
You know, too, maybe I'm thinking a lot about old times and stuff like that. I'm thinking about Allah B. You know, Allah B is going to be, there's a service for Allah B who remembered in perfection, the God returned, this next Thursday. And I definitely plan to be there. I'm not going to be at the service because I'm going to be at the school. So I'm going to be at the school at least like I always am at 5 next week. And people from the service will probably go to the school, but I'll be teaching and holding class at the school. So online or whatever, it'll probably be a bigger class, not because people know coming to the class, but because they'll be going there for the reception and stuff. But I will be holding class and building and stuff. And I want to tell you this, you know, Allah B, just like Umala, especially Umala, very much. But anybody that is anybody that built at Mecca, especially those who built in Mecca, it's this thing when you teach at a school and you're there daily, and there are expectations and there are even failures. Certain people remember the failures, but what I have taken notice of, and this is a commentary not just for Allah B, but certainly relative to that, people have found the flaw, would find the flaw in Allah B, or they would find the flaw in Umala, something that they found to be a genuine flaw that they thought, and sometimes, most of the time, I did not. I saw it as an error. And they use this flaw to justify that not only is it not worth building with said individual, but building at the said school. That it is impossible to build at the school because such and such this. And I find that people just don't have any regularity. You know? They don't have any regularity. You know? The most consistent person at a law school the last 10 years has been Justice. Yeah, little Justice, our great elder, our charismatic elder, Justice, who's been cleaning. It doesn't mean that other people haven't come regularly to clean and help and all that. But he's been the one that's there the most. People don't really respect consistency. You know, they don't respect consistency, you know. And Allah B, people were looking for his mistakes because when he got out of prison, he served about 25 years for, and it was certainly showed all the signs of being political. And when he got out, I remember when he got out. I remember when we were campaigning to get him out. And I didn't know who he was. I knew of him. I never met him. Just like most people, they hadn't met him. But when he came out, everybody got sharp. They were like, "Oh, we got to fix the school. We got to get it ready." In other words, he's going to demand certain things. And why was he able to demand certain things? Because he wasn't just in a box doing time. He was building. He was writing. A lot of people will not probably not eulogize Allah B in this way. But it's my thought, my opinion, and I think it's a valid one because I am a writer. I think he was one of the most gifted writers in our nation. He had a certain style that was he had a stylistic prose. And when you look at Dumar's writing, for example, it had charisma. Whereas Allah B's prose had a stylistic charisma. He used words differently. A lot of times our dialect translates to a confused speech. A lot of plus lessons are written in that confused nature, right? But that's not the case of what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is, and if you ever get the book, I always forget the name of this book. The book, The True History of Allah and Its 5%. From what I remember when I read it, Allah B's essay is like the last one. It really is. Is it the last one? Okay, the index. Yeah. He's the last one. Page 393.
Stop right there, little girl. You were the one who was trying to kill her. Don't watch it. Okay. Arrest her.
But the last essay is a great example because it was so beautifully written. I didn't know. I remember him talking about the book that he was trying to make, and he did get it out, and I didn't even know. I'm pretty sure I saved it somewhere so I could buy it later. Let me get the name of that because I haven't read it yet. Yeah, it's called The Show Improved Pioneers. I'm gonna put the Amazon link there. Yeah. But these are elders that challenged, when he came back, an infinite mind was there for this history. They would take in charge. And a lot of elders that weren't taking charge, all of a sudden they acted like they were. So you had some frauds, you had some real. Everybody was trying to get in step when the lobby came home. And we, as young gods, like myself, Infinite Mind, Wise Ramel, all of us, like we had some issues. You know what I mean? We wanted that baton passed, not held on. We didn't want to run the race together holding the baton. Right? Give me a moment here. Pick up, Diane. Pick up at the ground level. Siakil was definitely the most vocal, and I remember it was around when I started my class. I pulled Allah B, another elder, and I pulled him aside and I said, "Listen, don't necessarily agree with the control and the micromanaging." That was the issue. That's the best word to describe it. We felt we were being micromanaged, and Siakil really was a giant, and I don't mean it like because of his physical stature. And we didn't like being micromanaged. When we knew all of the professional capabilities, the resumes were there, we could do this. And all I remember was Allah being this other elder, great elder of ours, I pulled him aside and I said, "Listen, I'm not going to really take part in these meetings of the elders and young gods," and I forgot the name of the group that we were supposed to be talking to, because I didn't like the micromanaging. But I said, "Listen, these Thursday nights, though, I will do something with them. If these leave these nights free, and I will do something with them." And the thing was that they let me. They allowed me. I had disagreements with Allah B sometimes when I taught. I taught in a different way, a different style. It was unorthodox. You know, the way people see me teach now seems unique, but they don't realize how unorthodox it was when I started to teach. You know what I mean? How much it was at odds with the way elders were used to teaching, with the way a lot of people were used to expecting it to be taught. You know, right? If you said, I felt the issue is that they would turn down anything Young Gods added, then later came with the same idea, like if it was them. But I'm keep on my stuff before I get myself in trouble. But that's true, yeah. Because their goal was, and they felt this way, they truly felt this way, was to micromanage, though. And then you add some of the fraudulent builders who just popped out of the woodworks, and they made it seem it was those few that made the sincerity seem disingenuous, you know. But we persevered. We persevered. You know what I mean? Uh, the work that Siakil did, I think the work that I was able to do, you know, we persevered. We stood the test. You know what I mean? But the point was that at the same time, Allah B was a staunch supporter. You know, he brought me many students, and it's like a teacher at his level. He was bringing me students. You know, and I'm just telling his history. I'm telling history the way it was. You know, he did not address me as Sunez. You know what I mean? He addressed me as master teacher, and people that were around Allah B and saw him address me, that's what he would call me. And it just put fuel, the battery in my back to live up to that, to live up to that, because like I tell everybody, Thursday night after the class is over, that's when my week begins, where everything I thought I knew it will no longer be sufficient enough for the next week. You know, so I have done, and I've had this mentality for the last 22 plus years, you know, and a lot of people was just there being a builder, strong arming his own way to get things that he thought was right. And the thing was that more often than not, he was, you know what I mean? Making sure that it was a place for children as well. You know what I mean? So many of us, though, are great at educating the teenager and the young adult, as myself, and even the older adult. These are, these are areas of expertise. I think that I brought, I don't want to use that word, but it's a word that's been used for me, a very collegiate level of teaching as far as this knowledge of self, trying to bring up those young to this higher level. So I take you with me up. But what about just the kids that just want to go there and just want to engage, and just be in the cipher? Because that changes a young child to be in a cipher of young and grown black and black men and women that know that they are supreme. And that's the cipher that he was trying to get, where they could just come in and use the computers, you know what I mean? Engage, these are all things that he had a major hand in, and when you see the computer room, that's a major part of his legacy, you know. um it's funny, and I'll say it for the trolls here. These trolls act like you go to a law school and they Yakub, and they separate the black, brown, and the yellow. And yet I can remember one born day that the law B had, and I bought him. I still remember. Right? Let's find it. Let's find the name of it. I want to find the year. I bought him. What was the name of it? I don't know if it was. All right. Azúcar para ti, the 1965 album from Eddie Palmieri. He's doing this too. He's like this in the cover on the piano, and that was the album he really loved. These are these are. He remembers. He danced a lot of salsa. He was engaged with all of the music of the original people at that time. He was very musically inclined. It's why he related to a lot of the musicians, the MCs that he taught, whether they be brothers in Wu-Tang or Papoose and others, he was in tune to music in a different way, and certainly enjoyed it. And he had a lot of stories. He had a lot of stories about actual community realities. You know what I mean? How to engage them, how to deal with them. These are all things that he would talk about. And it's funny because as a 2 weeks ago or something, a troll was telling me he's gonna go tell Alabi. And people are just not in tune with who this man was. And a lot of people disagreed with what he was doing. But his results, I don't think that he was Machiavellian like certain other people. I don't think that. But I do think that anything that he went into, he had a real plan. And see, one of the things about Allah B, right, is that a lot of his understanding that he would give of how to deal with a situation had a great precedent of experience. So I always found that intriguing as well. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we would trade pedagogy. This is probably the last time I was with him. I had a Thursday during the pandemic that I didn't have any students because people weren't coming to the school. And I wasn't able to broadcast it on the laptop. I think I forgot my microphone or something. And Justice brought the Baji. You already know, Infinite. You already know. He brought the Baji, and the elders, they like the Baji in ice. You know what I mean? They pour it into a cup of ice. Me, we drank it right out the bottle like that, room temperature. You know what I mean? And I was playing, if I remember correctly, I was playing Stanley Turrentine, who happens to be my favorite saxophone player because I love the soul jazz and records he's made, all the Blue Note years, and all that stuff. So he's my favorite. And yeah, drink it straight. And we just was listening to jazz, and then we switched up to they started talking about the old souls. So I got it all. So we started playing the Delphonics, the Stylistics, you know what I mean? We started to play the old soul because I got it all, and we spent the night there. Those hours just of my class time, just building. You know what I mean? And as most ciphers with the elders, I get quieter and I just enjoy what they have to say. You know what I mean? Try to get an idea of what's it been like to have this knowledge that long, because they're the only people that have ever had it that long in this modern era. And I mean modern era because I know people have known that they were God, but who has gone out there on a limb and taught it in the societies that no one agreed with it, and people truly thought that it wasn't true, and they're the only ones that have it that long like this, right? And if you said, a lot of people might not know, but before I took these teachings to South America, I spoke with a Labi and Born, just making sure I had my elders' approval. Not because I needed it, but I follow protocol. That's right. I remember you telling me about that. Right? And yeah, we drink our baji straight up, right? Soon as I never drink alcohol though. So if you're gonna get me messed up, it's gonna be with the baji chew. It's gonna be with the baji chew. You know what I mean? If you want to turn me into the drunk butterfly, the drunk iron butterfly, it's gonna have to be with the baji. I know I missed something here. You built with a lot briefly, just as says on IG. Very cool. I got yeah. YouTube videos are must watches. Must watch. One of the things that Allah always tried to be an ambassador. You know what I mean? I was the reason I can tell you about the devilishment of say Wakil and my massive disagreements with Allah team is because he was the one that brought Wakil to me to write an appendix to his book, In the Name of Allah, the volume 1, so that way I could write about what actually is happening at Allah school, because I was the one that was there doing shit. And if you have these books, you know that he did not publish what I gave him. He extracted things from what I gave him, but and that's not even the high up in the order of devilish things he did with that book, but I regress. But I give that as an example of Allah being an ambassador and people disagreeing, like for example, when I had and I was the most vehement in here, when we had to toss out a certain individual that was not teaching and they were on their more bullshit and teaching wrong shit at the school, and they tried to front, that was because they had something that seemed worthwhile, and Allah gave him a shot. He always gave the youth a shot, and sometimes he put him through the ringer. Sometimes it seemed like he didn't. Like sometimes he just wanted the youth to try, and I'm exposing things that were not right, because it exposes that he was willing to take the chance on people. You know what I mean? And sometimes he didn't always have the right protocol, but we learned the right protocol. It's like with Umala, people always talking about, oh, there wasn't the right protocol. You needed to do this and do that. But we're talking about things that would not get done if he didn't do them. So what protocol are we really emphasizing here? Right? Just as you said here, did the first gods have to announce the entire 120 before they wore the flag, or did they come after he transitioned and why? Well, the flag comes later, though, because that gets brought after Sham God makes it, and then the mayor decides to do the great honor of making the first flag. So that protocol was decided after, you know what I mean? And at first it was really like, yo, if you are equipped to build on this and you can teach the youth and represent this, then the flag is on it, because there's certain people that were writing exactly, and they knew that they was really living it out, and knew representing this with great integrity. So it wasn't the way it became, which I think that's correct, the way it became, because I do that as well. That flag should be somebody that really, really could know 120 and really teach this well, you know, right? But back then, a lot of the elders were learning these lessons piecemeal, you know, lesson to lesson, then listening to other people who had other lessons that they didn't have, and it was very piecemeal, you know, an oral tradition to the fullest. Jarrell, you said, how should one go about with the construction of Book of Life? Should this be separate and distinguished apart from the lessons of writing down, or is it something what reclusive? To me, Book of Life is just all the things that you're learning in this knowledge of self. You know what I mean? And for me, it developed to be like a teacher's, you know, a teacher's curriculum and those teachings that led to it. But keep the things that are dearest to you regarding the knowledge of self, and that's the answer. You know what I mean? Right? That's the answer to that. Malik said, I remember being on 145th and God was like, don't go to the school. And I asked why and get far away. Later, he asked me for money. I didn't know him. I still came through. He mentioned Kaleem and all. Honestly, a lot of people were just weak, you know, because a lot of the asshole vibes and jerk vibes, people think that everybody treated me lovely. They did not. I was gonna get this knowledge, and the if the reason I wouldn't go back is because what they were teaching was wrong and incorrect and couldn't be shown and proven, not because somebody was a jerk with it. You kind of got to figure out that if people call themselves the true and living God, that there's going to be some very inflated ego somewhere in there. Because I know that every time I finish a class, and now they're online, anytime I finish a class, I'm sure that there are people that go, man, Sunez has got inflated ego. That shit is incredible. Like it's exploding out of his head. He can't even keep it in the hat. You know what I mean? Like whatever, right? I appreciate that 793. I want to say this though, that years ago I came up with the term remembered imperfection, you know, and I came up with that because we don't deal with a mystery, but I was being caught writing eulogies and in great artists that I knew personally, Sean Price, Kevlar 7, and so on, Pumpkinhead, you know, people that I knew that I came across that were really great to me, etc., etc. And greats that we loved like Guru or Fife that were real, you know, and they and all the elders that passed away, Dumar, Wise Jamel. These aren't people that we thought like Wise Jamel. I really loved Wise Jamel. You know, like I can't think of a person more inspiring. People inspire for what they do, the particular things that they say of understanding, but very few people inspire in the way that Wise Jamel did because it was about this knowledge is true. And so then our character just is of this nature of inspiring. You know, he had that energy all the time. Even when he was down, he would show it. And it was so sincere that sometimes that was inspiring too. No one showed their genuine sadness of the course of affairs, of oppression, of the 85 going the wrong way, of the hard times of being a 5%er. And Wise Jamel. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. All of us, though, take almost all of us, put our chest out, and we go out there and say, this is the way it's going to be. We have to. It is right and exact. The Father did this. We put our own battery in our back. We draw up our own chi and we expel it. And sometimes with Wise Jamel, he had his emotions on his sleeve. And yet that was inspiring as well, because no matter how much he sounded like he would give up, you knew he wouldn't. And because That's all he knew. And so that became inspiring too, you know? There are many years that I taught at a law school with just me and Wise Jamel were the only teachers. And we would, he inspired me constantly to keep coming, you know? Right? Yeah, it was more like in Wakil, he took pieces of teas, articles, writings, wrote a paragraph under each thing he took to give his perspective. Yeah. Or what he thought was the best perspective out of the three. That's all it was. He just wanted to write about how he saw it, but it wasn't journalism or scholarship. No, absolutely not. Yeah. Did more harm than good. And with all the good books out, Supreme Understanding, to me, the most essential books, the Righteous Way trilogy from Star Mail, Allah Jihad's book. Um, you don't need any of that. You don't need those books. You know? Right? Wise Jamel. He was a firebrand. A firebrand. You know? And Allah B, a lot like Siakil, they always had a plan. They always had ideas for the updating, what we're gonna do, how we're gonna do, you know what I mean? And he really taught a lot of people. You know, really taught a lot of people. You know? All right. So let me know if there's any questions, okay? I put the link to his book so you can support that. These are published through Amazon. So when you support people just like myself, they're getting that money straight up and a good profit. So I'm looking through these because when you see his book, it gives you a lot of suggestions from other people that are not even in this shit. They're just writing whatever they want. Okay. All right. Let me take a moment now. I am gonna be here till I should be able to be here until 10 o'clock. Okay, so let me take a break, throw away some of these old papers. time back. Let's throw away these papers. By the way, since I'm on this memory lane, you see, got everything low. Got everything low. Don't get it twisted. Right? Since on this memory lane, I don't have any here, but a lot of people don't know that during that time when I was with the elders too, that's when I made up the idea of putting the entire 120 on one sheet, like front and back. You know what I mean? And I remember See Allah, remember the perfection of the God, See Allah. I gave it to him. I said, let's look. Somebody mentioned it. You know, I was keeping that shit for myself. So I was like, this is my 120. You know what I mean? And I already now it's 120, but it was great to keep looking at it like that, you know, and refer to it. And he was like, "Oh, I gotta see that." He started to make copies and send them into this to the prisons and shit. That's how they got in the prisons, though. I never sent, and to this day, I still have never sent anyone in the prisons a copy of 120. I don't care if they say they acknowledge 120. None. It's something that I'll take their word, but I'll never give the entire shit in one chunk. I just can't do it. I gotta know you and know that you've gone through it, though. If you say you're ready when they're locked up, then we could go through some lessons, and then if they're sharp with it, then I'll send them that particular set. You know what I mean? But side note, you know, I'm not getting any questions, so I'm just waxing poetic about old times and stuff. You know. But this amount of elders is a lot. Like the whole generation. You know, Freedom, Umala, Wise Jamel, Dumar, Allah B. Last time, the very last time I was with Allah B, we were outside in school just recently, not too long ago. And I didn't have any students. Again, like in these COVID times. And I'm just kicking it outside. And it was me, him, and the God 60-second assassin, you know, Sons of Man. Great. That God is great. And I just bug out that certain people remember me. So that means a lot to me. So that shows means a lot to me. People don't have to remember me. But and we're just kicking it, you know, doing the knowledge, you know what I mean? Um you know, you try to remember everything that you were saying. A lot of times when I'm building, I see people on Thursday and I have it in my head about what I'm going to share, what I'm going to teach, and getting into that focus. And sometimes I don't remember everything that people are saying to me, you know? And I remember that when I was getting the knowledge, I used to always have my small notebook out and I'll be writing down everything people were saying, you know? Writing down ideas that they said that sparked from me and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I think it's a little different now. What's interesting is that when I write, I kind of get sparked when I feel like it. I produce the idea um, myself when I see fit. So I don't need outside inspiration. You know what I mean? Sometimes I just play with the sound of a word or particular understandings that I have about something, and that becomes something, whether a creative work or a build or something like that. You know? But I don't know. It'll never be the same because you try to capture these things and um, they don't have the benefit of things like this. You know what I mean? To capture us, it does make what the God Infinite. You know what I mean? AKA Inf Mega Allah School of Mecca YouTube page is done. To catalog just some of the understanding, though, just so we know that, these are great men. These are men that weren't teaching with cameras on. They were teaching behind the scenes. You know, I think people, they look at people that have a famous student, and this wouldn't be in line with La B and Freedom, aka Papa Wu, and they think that, oh, they're just famous, and they're just, they think they're all that, they're famous and they're doing this, and they don't realize how much teaching they did behind the scenes. You know what I mean? How much they were building. You know what I mean? To keep people straight, to challenge people, to keep them right and exact, to keep themselves right and exact in new situations that they themselves was in a new situation. A lot of people think that when Freedom was teaching all of the Wu members at different levels of focus, right? Some more than others, right? Their success, though, was also a new experience for him too, you know. And to have those profound things, and to be able to speak those profound things, is something that is powerful. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you this from experience. I can't really speak on particular things, particularly, but a lot of these people that make mistakes and these artists, it's usually against the advice of people like La B, and people like Freedom. It's because they didn't ask them what they thought. They didn't, go to their elders. Person like Infinite Mind will go to his elders, Allah B and Born Justice, to ask them for something, and they give the okay. And a lot of people have egos. They'll do something like that, and then they think, well, I got the okay, which means I never needed to get their okay. But the truth is that you had to show and prove that you were right and exact. You see? You know? You had to prove that you were right and exact. You had to be able to compose yourself, show that you could compose yourself and go under the highest scrutiny. Unfortunately, the highest scrutiny, though, isn't the student, the willing student, the receptive sponge that is in the street. Those are the people that you could hurt with the wrong knowledge, telling them the wrong thing, explaining things dismissively. Right? How many people have done direct or a lot of indirect devilishment, saying, "Oh, I don't like the way they do things at law school in Mecca," and then come to find out that what a lot of people don't like, though, has nothing to do with the teachings. They want to cry refinement. They want to cry this, but the truth is that they just don't like the current. In a simpler lay language, they don't like the style of pedagogy. They're too soft. They're too damn soft. You know? And that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's what it absolutely is. Every single elder I mentioned, I've seen him yell at people. Right? And so, well, the Sunnis, people didn't really yell at you. People look at me, they didn't really yell at me. They think I'm golden boy, right? The yellow seed, the golden boy. They didn't yell at me because I was preparing every single time. Right? When I was wrong, I was always prepared. So I was prepared in my era to learn. You see, I go as a student, so I don't come prepared to be not only successful in what I'm going to share in the testing of self, of myself, but as a student, I was also there and perfectly prepared to be wrong. Most students are not prepared to be wrong, and so they get yelled at. It might be as simple as not having any pen and paper to take down the notes. It might be that they're not mentally composed to concentrate. More scraps, right? And look at this. Look at this. Somebody know what this is? You guys know what this is? This is old school. I can't even throw this away. Look at this. Right? These are the tape. There's 3 of them that you put on the cassette. Blank cassette, Maxell. Yeah. I kept this in pristine condition. Like, this will, shit. Tape decals, yeah. You know 793rd. You know what I mean? A lot of people miss those old days, though. I don't miss shit. I went through a lot of hell to listen to music. And now, because I know what I'm looking for, I listen to everything I have, everything I don't have, and everything I really want to have, I go get. But it's really the culture of things, you know. Oh no, not just those. You had the right? The 60, 90, 120, 120, man. 120. That's how I recorded the long shows, right? 2-hour tapes. But I guess I'm not seeing any builds from people, any questions. So I'm on my own to rant. I guess everybody's interested. Let me show you something else. This here. A lot of people don't know that when I got knowledge, though, the name that I made for myself was Sunez Allah. I took off the word born because I realized one day that I'm born Allah. I am Allah. And Sunez is Allah. And so I am. And so it just became Sunez Allah. Sun is Allah. You know? Right? And first assignment that my enlightened knowledge me gave me was to show and prove the knowledge degree. So I wrote an essay. You see, 1, it's single-sided. 2, 3, 3.25 pages. The metal joints. You see, what I would do is that I would have a regular crystal 120 and I would record the show. Because you can't record over the metal ones. You can't record over them. You'll hear the previous, it won't fully erase. So what I used to do is I used to make the pristine tape off of the other one, you know. Anyway, that's pause tape science. But I can't even read this essay. It has so many wrong things, but let me I just want to go through it. How I was thinking. Master Allah, why? Wisdom Power, May 25th. I went to a law school May 1st, 1999, and May 25th, I already could write an essay showing and proving that I was the true and living God. I'd write things like this in opening paragraph. To those who don't know, the impossibilities of this first degree seem evident. How can a man be God? The maker of what? Etc. Despite, as is often the case, the premise that the black man is the original man historically may be an accepted truth, though with limited excitement. I always had to embellish. Sunez was a mother right there. Motherfucker. Right? All right. So I talk about the genetic makeup. I reference certain books. Check it, the Diop, Chancellor Williams, right in there as part of the research. The technical definition, I go through it, of Asiatic black man of Asia, what that means, what does Asia means, right? Sciences that one must deal with, astronomy, chemistry. I'm going through paragraphs and just summarizing. Father of civilization, talk about that in a paragraph. Then how would we use the lessons? And I quote the message to the black man, page 68. The people of Islam are the black people. Their numbers are made up of the brown, yellow, and red people called races, etc., etc. Right? Right? Then I expound on the understanding degree in the 1 to 10. Right? What else did I go through? Talk about the Father taking the 120 lessons. That we must be God, we must take it to another level. I quoted Elijah Muhammad, page 105 again. I quoted Dumar. I did some damn research here. As Dumar Wadi Allah says in his national statement, understanding the steps to civilizing 85. I'm going to quote this because people don't really have these plus degrees. The father stated that the black, brown, yellow seeds are one in the Allah world manifest. He built on how the black, brown, and yellow seeds are one and the same. Dumar. That's from Dumar's national statement entitled Understanding the Steps to Civilizing 85. I quoted the second degree and I built on it. Like I said, that we scientifically reference books on chemistry and the importance of learning the chemicals of the universe. I didn't quote. I referenced Francis Cress Welsing's ISIS papers. Let's see what else I did, right? And then I made a final statement about me, and how I am in that. You know? So you see it there, right? Sunez, Born Allah. Good stuff. That plus is here. I've shared with you all my Supreme Mathematics build. If I'm teaching you directly, that means you contact me after class. Justice curriculum, basic health protocols, the early versions. Okay. Here we go. The 1 to 36 build notes. Supreme Math alphabet build. Some other things too here. I think I'll teach this on another day. I think I had in here my favorite, but this is the 120 lessons, and I just write notes in them. There was a plus lesson I had here that I did not write. Infinite Mind. I still have the three. No. That's for me and the guys. The 3 Treasures Manual by Infinite Mind. I kept plus lessons too from my own brothers. You know what I mean? That was a powerful one. I had a book list too on there. Okay. It's actually the 48 Laws of Power. I printed out like the basic definitions. This is something I used to give to students and stuff. Early essays, the Peace Course and its pedagogy, that actually got extended and became part of the Knowledge of Self book anthology. Some old works, emails from brothers back in 2005. Wow. I think it's because what I said back to him that I kept it. The original essay of For the Revolutionaries. Supreme wanted a more simple version in the Knowledge of Self book, so I gave him a more simple version. The early Power Cipher book list. I give you guys an updated one, and that needs to be updated again. The Infinite Legacy of the 5%. Insights to the Pedagogy Employed in Law School. That became an essay from 2007. That was published in the Knowledge of Self book. These are emails that I felt like I had a strong build. Early Curriculums, 2010. Let's see what we got here. Another early curriculum. Yeah, look, here we go. A lot of people ask me what my favorite plus lesson is, though, and it's always been the International Teacher. Let me show you that old school text. The International Teacher. All I know is that it was written by gods from Great Metals, Comstock. They never gave out the names. But there are certain things that I really took to heart here. Qualifications of the International Teacher. The most important attributes of the International Teacher. His sincerity, number 1. His dedication, number 2. And 3, his positive contributions. I don't think there's anything I have never, in any of the pluses I've read, I've never agreed with something so profoundly that I have lived my life to try to have those 3 qualifications. And I treat them as qualifications because everyone that comes to get the knowledge of self damn well better be learning with someone that fits the bill of those three qualifications. Right? Ability part 2, the science of pedagogy. Of course, it expounds on how they must have it. Right? What else we have here? I'm going to read this again later in the weekend. The enlightened, I'm just reading portions. The enlightened teacher does not go out seeking to convert or recruit students from other groups, organizations, or schools, nor does he force himself upon anyone. He must be just and true in his examination of all seekers of his education, making absolutely sure that they are not motivated by selfishness or deceit in any form. As a guide, he must be able to determine the capabilities of each student and deal with them accordingly to their potentiality. Unless a teacher has this perception, he cannot be a guide. As one of extensive insight and flexibility, he is a counselor and advisor. He provides reassurance and the point of view which is influenced by the student's needs. Encouraging the sincerity of each student is the major concern of the teacher, as also the severity of undesirable and unproductive frames of mind, such as daydreaming or thought drifting during class. The teacher should not expect to be honored by his students, nor should he receive it. At all times must the rights of each student be respected by the teacher. I'm telling you, you read any portion of this plus lesson, and you realize that I have really lived by this plus lesson. Like I have agreed with it, and I have lived by it. And I don't know what the names of these brothers are. I've always said that I would hope to meet them one day, if they're even around. But this didn't necessarily change my life. I was already in the nation. I got the knowledge, and I was around teachers that exemplify this. But because the written word is so important to me, this literally is something that I would have written in the experience that I've garnered. And I read it before I got the experience. And to read it before I got the experience, it's like Back to the Future, though. You went back and showed me this plus lesson is the damn flux capacitor. This is literally my flux capacitor. Like this is something that I lived out and would have said exactly, but I got it before I lived it completely out. And I remember who gave it to me. It was one of the greatest teachers I've ever learned with, Savior Knowledge. He said, if you're going to teach, God, make sure you do it by the standards of the international teacher. And Knowledge Me knew about this, and he told me about it. And I was like, the international teacher, huh? To honor them, though, I'm gonna type this out as is, just so it is digitized and powerful. Great stuff. There's so much education I got in college, and none of it comes close to what I learned with these poor men. These men that were, we should be rich, we're poor, righteous teachers. No, these men were really poor. They sacrificed the possibilities. They sacrificed the realities that men could use this knowledge and transfer it to a culture of charisma and receive all the blessings that a man would ever dream of. And they were poor, Just as you asked, have I heard J. Roll's instrumental? You talk about Jazz Hop, right? Yeah, it's great. Of course I heard it. Where am I at, though? I haven't updated. I have some albums that I haven't updated on my list, so there's more to the list. But this year alone, again, that's how I write these books, like The Reel of 22 and 2022, which is coming either the end of December or the beginning of January, right? Probably the very top of January. And I already have how many? Approximately 284 albums. this year. Right? So, but there were a couple of more albums I didn't get to put on the thing, so I gotta put that on later. 793 have a 136 breakdown that someone's typed up, and we'll do the knowledge to yours one day. 793, you gotta email me, all right? I'll get it to you. I didn't write it to break down the 1 to 36, but to point out certain things, and I made it more like study notes. I don't want people to follow every idea that I have as far as how I see the sets of degrees. And so writing plus lessons on the sets have always been difficult. But that's why. Peace to the God, true divine. Noah, peace. From your experience, are the most common pitfalls that students face when coming to the knowledge of self and culture of the five senses? Oh, okay. I'm assuming you're asking me what are the most common pitfalls. I've always said this: people come to be saved, or they come as curious learners. Those are really the categories that everybody fits into if we generalize things. You know what I mean? There are other people that come to confirm that they have learned and have enough. In other words, they want to confirm that they are expert enough to say that they know about this. They don't need to learn more about this, and they know enough to be some kind of expert. Right? And the common pitfalls are very similar to Kung Fu. Those who approach it most intensely are usually not the ones that last the longest, though. You see, if we say, how did I last the longest, though, under the conditions? And these are the conditions: being Puerto Rican, being very light skinned, being from a Puerto Rican culture that was not very well known. It was appreciated, but not really well known. It was accepted by most that we were original. A lot of people, trust me, did not think that we were fully original, right? And that's flim flam to me. Um, Never right and exact, but even culturally, that we wouldn't be able to stick it through, or etc., right? Or understand or relate completely, whatever, right? Um, the pitfalls of being of that certain age. All of these things are crucial. You know what I'm saying? And I think that what set me apart, though, was that I realized that the grind is difficult. I listened to the elders. I listened to their stories. I was a very good listener. A lot of that has to do with my parents. My father isn't the greatest teacher of things, but he's a great storyteller. Um, my old earth, remembered imperfection, was a great teacher. If anybody notices these gifts in me and has received these gifts, it's because they were groomed by someone that had these gifts, you know? And it taught me to listen. It taught me to listen even when I didn't know, or I didn't know exactly everything that was being said. That people listening to people is almost like reading a book. When you read a book, sometimes you don't know every word, or you don't know everything to the best, but you get a general understanding, and it's good enough to continue to go. You go back to it, you'll read other books that will supplement it, and it'll finally be worth something. And when the time comes, you go back to that original book and get even more out of it. People are the same way, you know? And I think that one of the pitfalls is that people are bad learners and they expect everyone to teach uniform. The humanity of the 5% is our varying pedagogical styles. And being able to adapt to the realities of different individuals, you know, is great. There were some great elders, you know what I'm saying? I keep it real. Allah Real, the great one, Allah Real, one of the great singers, great builders. Allah Real was not a fan of Sunez at all. At all. I put it mildly. He was not a fan. He respected what I did, but he genuinely did not. I would say maybe at the end, maybe he had some maybe a lot more respect, probably, but he really didn't like me at all. You know what I'm saying? And he challenged me often. And at times it got to the point where I I just like anybody that was my peer, I invited everybody that would get disrespectful to a certain point to the fair one. I invited so many people to that though, and it's only when I felt truly disrespected, where I felt like I truly proved my understanding to the best of my ability, and I was being disrespected for for reasons of like and dislike. But I mentioned that because Allah Real, even as he was brutal, even as he would make a point that was worthy of critique of me, even though it was laced with a lot of other vitriol and just things that had nothing to do with it, um, I took that in. I did the knowledge. You know, I never tried to go back and forth. I never used, if I had any ability of witticisms, I never, I never went back unless I felt I was really being disrespected. You know what I mean? But you know, to the highest degree. I mean, you know, like I said, he's a great man, but because I know his experience with so many, but he was a real asshole with me, and these different types of teaching styles that elders had, you had to adapt to them. You know what I'm saying? You had to know. There were other elders that they were mean with me in the beginning, and that's because they needed to see a set amount of years of me building to see, certain elders that you think now, Allah Shasha was really hard on me and had a lot more respect for me because he'd come back and I'd still be there. He'd come back and I'd still be there. And it was beyond just social gathering. So a lot of times it was earning the respect. People don't have the willingness to do that. And I've never understood why people would leave a place that happens to be the only place that is teaching a truth. I would imagine in this oppressed world of this truth that it would reside among men and women that would be very frustrated, would have high levels of bitterness, would have more stress than the average black man, the average black woman of any shade. And just to say that is extreme. So you're telling me that in the 5% nation, the intensity of oppression and stress is actually of a greater bearing and greater intensity than of any 85 because of what we know, right? These are the pitfalls. Many students, Noah, they do realize this, and I got your email, Noah. I didn't have a chance to uh, answer. It's been very difficult week to say the least, but it was a great email you sent me. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to answer to it. And but a lot of the pitfalls really happen with that. You're learning from many, even though one is focused as your supposed enlightener, and many can't do that. They don't know how to learn with many. Like some people might find my style a very warm current, and then all of a sudden they find Darkim and he's a completely abrasive. I mean, in my mind, if you can deal with me and you can't deal with Darkim, it's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Because it's in learning from all of us that you really, really get this knowledge as a living reality. See, we're getting a knowledge of self, but we're also learning what is the frameworks in this early, literally experiment with the highest explosive of making a nation. How will it be that we could live this as a culture? Well, then you're going to have to take some survey of these great elders. You know what I mean? You're going to have to take a survey of these great elders. You know what I mean? I just want to lean back a little bit. And really build. You know what I mean? And that's the major pitfall. When I look back, it's people that just weren't having it. I'm gonna say this: a lot of people, they 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 show me a lot of love, especially a lot of brown brothers all over Latin America. They show me love if they know about me, and a lot of times because they couldn't do what I did and stay with this knowledge, get this knowledge, and deal with people saying that they weren't original. See, what a black seed, well, certainly African American, will never go through. They'll never go through a cipher where people say that the black man is God, and all the while you're being told that you could prove that you're the true and living God through your lineage, through your reality, through your culture, through your parentage, etc., etc. But because you're too light or you come from a different culture and you're not in that, even though you're as indigenous as they come. So this becomes difficult, and a lot of people aren't really built for that. There are a lot of people today, even my own students, some of them, I teach them as they see fit, as best as I can under the conditions that they've decided. This is what they're going to be. Some are going to be in this nation, some are going to be with this knowledge, living it, but not necessarily in the nation. It's all types of people you teach. And meaning that they know that the true and living God, they go through lessons, but they're going to bring the fruits of their reality, but not really be embedded in a nation like that, as far as activities and things like that. And some of them will have the excuses that are unacceptable to me. They deal with refinement, or they, like they do this, and those are all stupid. Those are all stupid to me. You know what I'm saying? Because we were taught that if the shit was you was teaching was true beyond a shadow of a doubt, you could prove it. And the truth is that certain people can't. You know what I mean? They want to cry devilishment being done, but they can't really show and prove their hadith to the best without beyond a shadow of a doubt. So they have excuses not to go, and that becomes a pitfall as well. But you get many types of students, and I think that just as you were talking about that clip of Firstborn Prince saying that, Firstborn Prince was saying that because at the time there was no worthy student but the young student. Students that were older, they were already gone. They were not worthy. They were not going to be new to this. And they had a place to go. They're very viable NOI if they were older, right? But this reality has lived as a culture past the generation into another generation, right? We're in a second generation. So, right? And we've passed many eras, right? Like, certainly I agree with Darkim when he told me this years ago that the end of the 90s, those who got it after 1990 is a different era than the way that we got it. And I'm at the end of that era. So I have a lot of understanding of both sides. And I knew what Prince was saying because these are things that he taught me. They expected me to kick out the old student. And they saw that I did some, including Firstborn Prince, do things that others didn't do. I was able to teach people that were way older than me. I was able to teach people that were peers and people that were adults that were slightly older than me. So I taught everybody. And I just used the principle that Savior Knowledge taught me, that they are a worthy student as if they make the criteria, not that they are young, but if they are not young, are they people that will be around the young? And now when you judge a student like that, there is so much potential, for the people that will be around there, because This era is much more disconnected from the elders, but that has a lot to do with not just social media, but also the changing of our own culture. We were disconnected from our culture for a long time, but no one really likes to give hip hop that credit. That this idea of sampling and this idea of crates, and it makes you know your history. It makes it something that is worthwhile to know and part of the sample. And that became part of the way, the culture, and everything. And the pulse of what people knew was important. To reflect the pulse of all the things that were known was important. You see? But what we have is a corporate music, sound slop, I like to use, that gets used in the mainstream. So it's really not the same thing, right? It's not the same thing. So the culture is somewhere else, right? Whereas through the 90s and stuff, the culture actually peaked into. But I was there during the 90s. I was in there. And I knew that the culture was already working, that is music, hip hop, to be taken out, to be figured out, learn the lyrics, what are they talking about, and then to be extracted from the song. You know what I mean? And all we have to do is try to make hip hop cool, but the version that we think is acceptable cool. And we'll get enough lackeys that want that dough to do that. And that's what happened. But the pitfalls are always, a man either wants knowledge or he wants to be saved. Those brackets are very, very big. They engulf most of the people. And Noah, if if they don't develop this excitement over learning, and then that learning, applying it to themselves in these activities, what's going to happen is that they're going to look at things and not feel saved, because we do not do that. But a lot of people that become great learners and great builders in this nation were once seeking to be saved, and they tried every other outlet. See, that's why you don't turn away just for those reasons. Justice, can I read the essay, God, on how the original man is God? I know it's dope. I gotta disagree with you, God. I hate it. I don't like it. It just shows, because we build on a more, you're one of my students that have contacted me, and we build like all the time, like we're brothers, like on that level, and we build. I'll send you some screenshots because I don't have it typed down. I don't have typed. It's just here, but I'll screenshot it so you can check it though, so you can see the development. But it just has, so it's missing so many things that, um, but without writing that, I wouldn't have had the springboard. I wouldn't have had the springboard. You know what I'm saying? 793 said flux capacitor for Marty L. Ray Jr. Putting you right on time in your time. Oh my goodness! Now instead of Martin, Sunez L. Ray. Now it's or ML Ray. It's Marty L. Ray. It's combining MLK and Back to the Future. I love that movie, Back to the Future. Though. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. No, he said, it's all good. I understand the situation. I expect your response in right timing. Well wishes to your family. Thank you for the bill. Oh, that's peace. No, that's peace. I'm not ready to go yet. I'll be done at 10 o'clock. So if anybody, I'll be done at 10 o'clock. So at least by 10 o'clock, we had like 2.5 hours. I was trying to get here at 7, but I couldn't find the folder. I realized that the folder that it was actually in, that was in my head, that I carried for years and years in a briefcase, that had withered away to this extinction. So I had to get this nice plastic folder, a new one. And because I don't have to travel with it, I don't really travel with it. It has not. This folder is only like 2 years. ML ML Ray, aka Marty L. Ray. Baby's been with me watching too. Oh, that's peace to the baby. Yeah, I'm always amazed that people sit in my classroom, that they do the knowledge, that they find it useful. I'm always amazed at that. Like I said, it's the mentality. My mentality is that I haven't done anything. My mentality is that I've done enough to be able to do something again. But I haven't done anything. Once I hit that pen to page, once I open that book, I don't know enough. You know what I mean? So it is not a celebratory lifestyle. You know what I mean? It is a lifestyle that when I do, you know, when I do complete something, that is very celebratory to me. Now, I don't know. I didn't know I had so much to say, but I'm going to go through some of these progress questions. This is a very hard plus lesson. All right, so let's just read this straight up, though. And I guess now it'll be a reading, and maybe you can all try to absorb it and come up with questions on it. And then next week, I could go through it in a little more detail. And if you want that detail, if you have questions you need answered immediately on that or anything else, you could always email me and everything like that. But I'm going to read some of this plus lesson. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. Okay. This is the intro paragraph of this plus lesson. It's the 10-piece progress questions for the dedicated student. Constant elevation at an ever increasing rate is not a superficial ideal, a statement of theoretical upliftment, nor an unattainable standard to strive for obsessively. Again, this is an example. I start the plus lesson like this, and this is an example of my concentrated language. But I always said perfection is constant elevation at an ever increasing rate, right? So that rate is not linear, but because our reality is circular, we go back to go forward. So it's a cipher of depth that perfection is. So it's an ever increasing rate, but it's one of depth. Anyway, I said it's not theoretical upliftment or just some unattainable standard. It is what we are. Rather, I'm continuing now. Rather, perfection is to acknowledge that all thought is the birth of impossibility's possibility. Again, I don't have a pen here. I have to underline that. But this is another. I have a lot of phrases that I've said over the years, and as we go along, and that's why I write my own understanding, because I forget my own phrases. But I taught this for years, that everyone is the true and living God. Everyone is the true and living earth. And one of their main realities is that they are the only ones that can be themselves. In other words, they are the impossible possibility. It is impossible for anyone to do what Rakim, who came in, peace God, can do. And so it is an impossible possibility. No one else can do it. Only him. And so the greatness of him can only be achieved by him. So it is an impossibility for all, but possible for him. So he himself is an impossible, his impossibilities possibility. So just that phrase in my head, impossibilities possibility. That is what each of us are. Right? With learning, sharing, and creativity, the essence of our descriptive reality, the ever-present mathematical reality of our perfection, is to constantly acknowledge our growth and development retrospectively, looking back, going through things mathematically, what you did, and then taking it back through math to see how it was lived, and to answer to it proactively. The following questions are supremely mathematical in their order. I ordered them according to math too. And revelation of law are to aid in our evaluation of progress, future goals, and our realization of our supreme and most unique self. Number one, knowledge accumulated. Again, as I go through this, you'll see a lot that it goes into that becomes the build awareness square lesson. So the first one is knowledge accumulated. Books read. We should favor a method of charting how much we are learning. To begin with, books. Note how many pages, books one reads each day, every week, every month. How many sources of knowledge, as in books, documentaries, teachers, writings, lectures, are we exposing ourselves to? Does this properly include the creative arts as well? Is the balance between your knowledge, literature, science, math, history, sacred text, and creative arts recognized and conducive to your needs at the moment? Okay. It's just a deeper look at the things you're learning. Sometimes this could be as simple as realizing that, I decided to watch this program on Netflix, and you know what? I earned it because I look through what I'm learning, and it is diverse enough that now the arts, quality arts, right? I'm watching Better Call Saul, and then season 2, so I'm enjoying that because I saw Breaking Bad. So at least I deserve to watch some quality art, right? But then 2, communication awareness of communication. Are we writing anything at all? What are we writing? What format? Poetry, prose, essays, and content. Is it about love, politics, social reality? Are we favoring? I wrote this before social media, and this becomes really crucial because sometimes people's social media, it just becomes a real trap for engaging in your weakest thoughts and extending them instead of being a mirror to yourself. Social media, one of the biggest disgraceful things that social media is not really helping is that you would think that as a writer, when you write, the word is a mirror to you. It shows me where I'm at and what I have become. It shows the pride of my creativity, where it's at, but it also shows the intensity of the understanding that I've developed. When people are on social media, though, it shows people a mirror, but it's often not being mirrored back to themselves and say, are you kidding me? I'm writing that shit, right? And just as right on time, though, we get some social media like stuff, right? Come on, man. Right? So, if one expects progress here in your communication, they must note how much they write, study the course of their own writings, and favor a mass quantity of work that develops into an immense quality. This is my life. These progress questions are exactly how I have judged myself. Okay? And sometimes as a teacher, I have found them to be sometimes harsh. And so I tried to simplify them. But that's why I don't always teach this lesson, but I'm going through it. Other formats just as vital are your verbal communication skills. Who are you speaking to? And is it in the correct dialect, tone, and content for the audience and environment? Right? Is your current right? The dialect, are you speaking in a way that they would understand? Right? Sometimes you got to speak supreme math in our language without using our language. Content, is it useful? Is it something that they actually can use? Right? Is it effective? Meaning your thoughts are being conveyed with efficacy. In other words, some people build and they build right and exact. They build right, but not exact because it takes too long. Right? That's what I mean by efficacy. What are you studying or exposing yourself to that will develop this further? Right? All right. You know who developed? Watching people like Dave Chappelle, like in that speech he gave to the school that was opening in his name. I thought that watching Dave Chappelle and the way that he holds a crowd, the way he speaks, it's it really is profound to study. Also, classics like Khalid Muhammad at the Donahue Show. I haven't seen that in a while though. That's a gem right there. You know what I mean? Right? If you've never seen Khalid Muhammad at the Donahue Show, you are missing out. But that's one to do another stuff. All right, number 3, health. The progress of health first begins with your diet. And of course, I made a whole plus lesson about diet. The vegan diet focused on living foods consumed. Again, this is how I see it, as opposed to being a weekly living banner of what is not eating, should consist of chlorophyll-rich juices, pure water, fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes as the core. Right? I forgot to write nuts, but nuts, seeds. Right? Supplements should start with the inexpensive, highly effective antioxidants, B complex, vitamin C, green tea with the proper oils, including coconut oil, cold pressed olive oil, omega rich oils, right? And you don't need fish oils to get that, right? You get that from the algae now, the direct algae that the fish would eat. As many as all the foods consumed should be organic and fresh. Is this summation being worked on or expanded? Are we eating to live where our foods give us the nutrition to create the energy necessary? Are we furthering our supplementation? Vegan protein powder, green and red chlorophyll powders, more antioxidants, other useful herbs, better water and air purification, with the earning of opportunistic funds. Okay. To me, again, these are very personal. To me, health has always continued to multiply. I try new things all the time. I exile things often. You know, always trying things. You know. Training program 4. Firstly, is there any exercise at all? How sedentary, meaning how much not doing anything, are we in our lives? How can we make time or more time for exercising? Is the training proper developing? Full body strength conditioning and intense aerobic workout. Again, I have become much more detailed in this as we go along. All right. And again, this is true, so it still is true. The training program advocated in the P.E.A.C.E course is the martial arts, particularly Shaolin Kung Fu, a physical training that adapts to the physical and mental contours of each individual's body and mentality in a peaceful intensity and righteous fury that is as coordinated as a cipher. I don't know if you noticed this, but I defined what Kung Fu is to me. A physical training that adapts to the physical and mental contours of each individual's body and mentality in a peaceful intensity and righteous fury that is as coordinated as a cipher. With Kung Fu training, there is a focus on mental creativity applied through a full body awareness, manifesting advanced Qigong, that's breathing techniques, Qi meaning energy, Gong meaning hard work, for endless energy attained. Regardless of the training, exercise must increase muscle mass and our capability, energy, flexibility, and allow the mind's thoughts to blend effortlessly with the body. Okay? 5, power number. Learning to learn. This is a Sufic saying, learning to learn. All right, that's where I got the Sufis say this often. Right? Learning to learn. Are you taking notice and detailing the methods by which you learn? How does one memorize 120 lessons? How does one retain them? What formats of knowledge are more suitable to them? Documentaries, lectures, group building, books. For example, for the student, the reading of the book is the epitome of his or her role. However, the well thought out choosing of that book is in the role of self-teacher, as one is assessing the personal readiness and level of difficulty, subject specificity, and questions expected to be answered. And learning to learn, one is taking note how one takes in information, keeps knowledge, and remembers important principles of thought encountered or manifested in thought. Principles seen and developing through actualization is number 6. Principles seen and developing through actualization. Right? That key word actualization is important to me because to me that's the difference between the Father and the One. He lived out what it said in the first degree. Right? In developing the supreme character of oneself, one must see key moral, ethical, and scientific principles in all that they study. Case in point, when one is studying 120 lessons, are they drawing out its essential principles? Are the mistakes of history becoming lessons? Are you able to put history in its vast archaeological, anthropological, scientific discovery and realized truth of the original man into a context of today's world, experiences, and purpose? In all of one's observations and studies is one experimenting with the development of their own original and creative relaying of their most profound thoughts, as an understanding with a usable wisdom and a foundation of knowledge to support it. This latter question is the essence of one's equality shared with self and all. See how I told you it gets heavier when it gets to higher degrees. The second half, the God degree. 7. Creativity manifesting or consciously developing. As you know, right? I was going to say something before I read it. In this classroom and in my teaching, it's not just knowing and being God as a righteous person helping the world and teaching to the world, but to be the true and living God, one must be a creator, and everyone must engage in the practice or the development of creating. So I said, is it not obvious that the creator of all is a student and experimenter with all forms of creativity? Yes. And is it not vital that the knowledge, useful information, and wisdom tools to apply the knowledge are best merged in a personal understanding whose cultural product is creation? Yes. This is perfection. Feel the freedom to make things and indulge in all the arts. And I actually quoted my future martial arts book, and I had written this long ago. I said, creativity is the resourcefulness to mold thought, expressing a vision of righteousness to those who have yet to truly see it, all encompassed with an imagination to beautify the truth as the living garment of Allah. Okay, told you it gets a little tough, a little heavy. Number 8, the build one. The build one. Okay. All right. Inner self-communication. This is very important. Does one ever notice the bond one words to themselves? The bonds that no one hears and only can be punished from the self. One must master the way one speaks to self. That fear and limitation are not the conversations immediately indulged. That one approaches all issues with a compassionate equanimity. Equanimity means you're not judging, right? And calls upon his vigor to succeed at every moment with the resolute calmness and peace to judge all its remnants mathematically. Does one notice a shift in their personal speech when they are in preparation, in performance, while sharing the essential result of communication with others? How does one think and thus act when receiving and giving? All right. I don't see any questions here. I see Naked HD, and I don't know if this weird thing just stopped everybody from adding on. So if anybody just wants to, give me this thing works here, right? That way I could see if I'm getting any add-ons here. I hope I didn't just block it for everybody. All right. So the born one, right? Are the places, people, and things encountered, used, and lived elevating by your presence? This is important. This is about sharing and are you elevating by your presence? Are you elevating by your presence? What I meant by that, though, are you getting better alone? When you're alone, are you developing? When you're alone for a certain amount of time, do you leave that situation better, more developed, or worse? Do you have concrete realities to born? Are they on course to fruition? Have they realized themselves? How should they prosper? Has the knowledge you've gained led to a better understanding and a worse culture? How has everything changed with your presence? How do you honestly see your presence, your essence, and your character? Can you put this into words? It does not matter what others perceive, for that is reflected in their actions and the betterment seen around you, right? So it doesn't matter what people say, but are people's actions, are people being better? Are they living better? Are they doing better because of your presence? Now, the knowledge add-on to cipher is the longest one. How to prioritize the judgment of all these prior inquiries, right? To prepare the proper performance of an ever-constant justice. The answer to this is the writing of one's own history. Prioritization of all things is the hidden measure of success for the well-rounded God in earth. It shows a powerful understanding of the judgment of self, allowing one to build in the most profound manner. Justice is the activation of judgment. Note that rewards and punishment should not be the finality of narrow desires and broad failure, for they are totally useless to the true and living. We should not seek rewards, for our greatness need only be beneficial to others, though it may not be felt. Again, this is the influence of the international teacher. Consequently, no punishment is as severe than in knowing that the self suffered through a corrupted bond, dragging a lax manner. With the greatest judgment applied to self, it is then justice served as a precise preparation and an unwavering performance of it. And some bullet points. Make one's judgment become as concrete as the justice intended. Make viable plans for development. Set goals for growth of knowledge and expression of wisdom. Concentrate on detailing one's understanding in a living context. That's what I always tell you when you have your bills on math and the day's math. The best part of one's own judgment should be analyzed for these like methods to become universal in one's ways and manners. Note the worst part as the useless cliche that will not accompany you. The poorest part aspects of one's judgment are often fatalities of time. Right? With this judgment, let justice be served in the carrying out of a swift and changeable plan that lives perfection as time used righteously and to one's benefit. Justice served, to conclude, is when one leaves the day to rest, feeling accomplished that they have been able to study and research, explore and live life, and create in the state of leisure, meaning a state of calm. Again, this is 10 questions for the dedicated student, a plus lesson I wrote, dated September 17th, 2004. All right, so, oof. I wrote this plus lesson when I was 28 years old. All right. I had the knowledge for 5 years. I was teaching already for about 4 years. Okay. So that was a lot. So when people go back, rewind, I will answer questions about this for the next class, or your emails or text when you text me. Right, Malik? But that's heavy. It's a lot. Went down this memory lane. I hope that some of the things I said about Allah B and his greatness, one of the most greatest gods at fulfilling greatness for the youth, being a liaison for the youth, being an inspirant to everyone he encountered, especially the young, being able to understand the youthful ways, even when it would have been okay if he wasn't in tune at all. Next week, we'll be honoring, there'll probably be a lot of people in my class that are not students, because they'll just be in the school at that time. And hopefully I could get people to speak about Allah B and stuff like that. And we could make it a class that you'll really get some insights from a lot of the elders and greats that knew Allah B. Hopefully I can control the expected chaos, right? But it'll be a good chaos. Right? But with that said, I want to thank everybody for the well wishes for my father and his health, and my family. The shouts to my daughter and my niece. It means a lot. And I'll be at the school next week. All right. So, and as far as hip hop, if anybody's interested in any of the books or the Peace Course book that's coming, the Peace Course book, I'll give details when it's ready. That should be coming up at the end of August. Most likely will be the last official book I release this year, and then Real of 2022 will come out at the beginning of 2023. I like to get the last records I get like in December 25th 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 30th, you know, and get them all in there. But we'll keep building. We'll keep building. You know what I mean? All right. So if anything, create, do the knowledge. You know what I mean? Right. My little one, Alma. Yeah, I definitely would give Alma the love. Um, so I'll build with you all next week. And at a law school. All right. Peace to the gods, earths, and everyone that tunes in, whether you speak to me or not, um, willingly that it was useful. All right. Peace.